Paul wrote these words in his letter to the Galatians. You were running well. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? This persuasion is not from him who calls you. That's Galatians chapter 5, verses 7 and 8. One time I was watching a track and field event on television. It was a distance race. One of the runners was way out in front. Yet as he rounded the bend for the final stretch home, something happened. He stumbled. By the time he gathered himself, the other leading competitors passed him. He finished the race, but he did not win. He was running well, excellent for that matter, but something caused him to stumble. In the Christian life, we must not only start out well, but continue well. This is the point that Paul brings forth right here. The Galatians started in their Christian journey very well, in fact, excellent. However, something happened to them. The issue was a doctrinal one. They started out with a message, a teaching that transformed their lives. They heard the message of the gospel, the truth, that they would be justified by grace through faith in Jesus alone, and this apart from any works of their own effort. The Galatians had believed the message that Paul delivered. They did so because it was the truth from God to them. They began from the starting line and were running well by faith. So what happened? Some men came along bringing another message. It was a false message that put a cause for stumbling in the way of the Galatians who had started the race so well. The false message was that they needed to add works to grace in order to be approved by God. Now Paul told them, this persuasion is not from him who calls you. Their following these false teachings would literally cut into their ability to run the race well. What would happen? Their addition of works to grace would hinder their true expression of faith. It was no longer faith alone, but works. Paul wrote to the Romans that whatever does not proceed from faith is sin. Sin in the life of the Christian will cause the believer to stumble in the race set before him. So what should the Galatians have done? As the writer of Hebrews so correctly put it, they were to lay aside every weight and every sin which clings so closely, and then run with endurance the race that is set before them. They were to return to the truth. They were to walk by faith. By following this teaching, the Galatians were embarking By following this false teaching, the Galatians were embarking on a race that would be full of weakness, a feeling of hopelessness, and a lack of joy. The Lord had never intended the Christian race to be like this. He set every true believer on a race filled with power, hope, and joy. Now, if you today are struggling with the Christian race, if you seem to lack power, hope, or joy, perhaps you've allowed the subtle error of works to enter your experience. Cast off the false teaching that is hindering you and run the race as the victor that Christ has made you to be.